Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Classic Motion Stories, the place where we talk about awesome and legendary classic films. This time, we're diving into the movie Bonnie and Clyde, which was released in 1967. The film tells the story of two infamous bank robbers in the United States, Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow. They're portrayed by Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty. When it was released, this movie broke many Hollywood taboos and became a milestone in the new Hollywood era, which embraced more freedom of expression through film. Before we get into the movie, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our latest videos. Now, let's dive into the storyline of Bonnie and Clyde.
Take a good look, Pop. I'm Buck Barrel. For the Barrel Boys!
The story opens with photos and a biography of Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow. We're then introduced to Bonnie, who's bored in her room while undressed. She looks out the window and catches Clyde trying to steal her mother's car. Bonnie comes downstairs to confront Clyde, but he denies it, saying he was actually interested in buying the car. The two end up walking together as Clyde escorts Bonnie to her job as a waitress. Clyde tries to get to know Bonnie and admits he's unemployed after being released from prison for robbery. Instead of being scared, Bonnie becomes intrigued. She even asks how exciting it is to rob with a gun and dares Clyde to prove he's an armed robber. Clyde then walks into a store and robs it for cash. They flee in a stolen car. In the next scene, they hide in an abandoned house where Clyde teaches Bonnie how to shoot. But someone arrives. It's the owner of the foreclosed house, which had been seized by the bank. Clyde shoots at the foreclosure sign and invites them to join, as if to say, "To hell with the bank." From that moment, Clyde decides to rob banks. Bonnie and Clyde rob their first bank, only to find out it's bankrupt and has no money left, as it closed 3 weeks earlier. Clyde makes the bank employee explain the situation to Bonnie, who bursts out laughing. Clyde, frustrated, shoots at the bank. In the next scene, Clyde is shopping at a store but refuses to pay. The shop owner attacks him, but Clyde escapes. At a gas station, they meet a young man with extensive knowledge about cars. Clyde invites him to join their operation. His name is Moss. Meanwhile, the police are searching for Clyde after the store owner reported the attack. A few days later, they plan another bank robbery, this time with Moss behind the wheel. But Moss parks the car improperly. Bonnie and Clyde, having stolen money from the bank, struggle to find the car to escape. They're chased by a crowd and end up killing someone. When it's safe, Clyde gets angry at Moss because they are now wanted by the police not only for robbery, but also for murder. Later, Clyde asks Bonnie if she still wants to stick with him. If not, he's willing to take her back to her mother. But Bonnie chooses to stay and continue robbing banks with Clyde. Clyde then invited them to meet his older brother Buck and his wife Blanche. They then took photos. This photo later became a legendary photo of them. The five of them moved to a new house. There, Buck orders groceries from a shop and asks for the groceries to be delivered to his house. When the groceries arrived, the delivery man knew that the police were looking for Bonnie and Clyde in the house. Sometime later, their house was surrounded by police. Everyone panicked and tried to fight back. The gunshot was unavoidable. But they managed to escape. Buck killed the police and they fought in the car. They stopped, and Bonnie asked Blanche to leave her alone because she almost killed them all when they were surrounded earlier. But they agreed to run away and continue. The next day, they read the news about themselves, and they were proud to be written in the news. They stopped by the lake to relieve themselves and rest. It turned out that they had been followed by someone who turned out to be a sheriff. When the sheriff tried to catch them, Clyde shot the sheriff's gun, and they tied him up. Bonnie then suggested that they take a picture with Sharif and send the photo to the newspaper so they would look friendly. Bonnie tried to pose while kissing the sheriff, but then she was spat on. Clyde then gets angry and tries to drown the sheriff. But his attempt is thwarted by Buck, and eventually the sheriff is put on a boat and left to drift with his hands tied.
We're gonna use it! We got you! We're gonna use you, boy!
In the next scene, they robbed Bang again. This time it was more organized and there were more personnel.
Money at the bank.
Mine.
All right. You keep it then.
For the barrel boys!
The alarm then sounded and they ran away while being chased by the police. Then there was a chase scene and shooting between them and the police. They fled to Oklahoma, and the police turned back because they had no jurisdiction there. They then counted the amount of the robbery, which turned out to be only a little, because at that time there was a financial crisis there. At that time, Blanche asked for his happiness, but the others protested because Blanche did not do anything when robbing, especially Bonnie. But Clyde then tried to give Blanche a share, and of course Bonnie was angry because of this. When they were fighting, Moss told them that their car was damaged because of the chase, and they had to replace it with a new car. They then tried to rob another car and they were chased by the owner. But the owner was scared and finally turned around to report to the police. Bonnie and Clyde then tried to chase the owner of the car, who turned around. When they stopped, they told the two people to move to their goods car. There they got to know each other and even chatted until they realized that these robbers were friendly people. At night, the man admitted that his job was a gravedigger. Bonnie immediately changed her mind and asked them both to be dropped off in the middle of the road. One day, Bonnie ran away from the group. They searched for her and eventually found her. It turned out Bonnie ran away because she missed her mother. She finally asked Clyde for permission to visit her mom. They reunited with Bonnie's extended family in a remote place and spent time together there. Bonnie tried to give her mother a necklace and asked her to stay longer. But her mother didn't look happy after reading in the newspaper about Bonnie's and Clyde's crimes. She even refused to let Bonnie live near her. And so, they parted ways. In the next scene, they're relaxing in a house. Blanche and Moss go out to buy food at a diner. There, a police officer recognizes Moss. That night, the place where they're staying gets surrounded by police again. A shootout erupts. Buck is shot, and they try to save him, while Blanche is hit in the eye. Buck's injuries turn out to be very severe. In the morning, they are surrounded again. This time, they try to escape through the woods, but they struggle because every route has been blocked.
Charlie, don't shoot! I'll get the car! Good! No, Buck! This way!
They eventually flee into the forest, leaving Buck and Blanche behind. Buck dies, while Blanche is captured. Bonnie, Clyde, and Moss continue to run. Bonnie is shot at a river, but they keep trying to evade the police. Clyde later goes to a house, steals a car, and they manage to escape. They stop somewhere to ask for water and are helped by locals who recognize them as Bonnie and Clyde. Not knowing where else to go, Moss takes them to his parents' house. Moss's father recognizes them as Bonnie and Clyde. At first, he hesitates to help, but eventually agrees. The next day, Clyde, frustrated with their situation, becomes angry and wants revenge by robbing even more banks. Moss's father seems to support Bonnie and Clyde, but deep down, he's unhappy with the situation. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the sheriff who once posed for a photo with Bonnie and Clyde interrogates the now blind Blanche. From her, he learns Moss's full name. After spending some time at his parents' house, Moss's father tells him not to get into the car with Bonnie and Clyde in town the next day. Sure enough, Moss refuses to get in and stalls for time at a store. He tries to hide there. Bonnie comes to fetch Moss, but that's when the sheriff arrives and they realize they must leave Moss behind. On the road, Bonnie and Clyde come across Moss's father, who's fixing his truck's tire. As Clyde goes to help, Moss's father suddenly ducks under the truck. Bonnie and Clyde seem to realize what's about to happen. Suddenly, they're ambushed and shot at from the bushes. Both are killed. It turns out the shooter is the same sheriff who once posed for a photo with Bonnie and Clyde and had been humiliated by being sent floating in the lake. The end. This movie caused a lot of controversy when it was released, especially for its bloody and brutal scenes, which were shocking for a 1960s film. It's no surprise that many people didn't like the film at first. But over time, it proved to be a landmark in Hollywood cinema, marking a shift toward more realistic and daring action in movies. If you're looking for a film that tells the true story of Bonnie and Clyde, this one is definitely worth watching. Don't forget to like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Also, tap the notification bell so we can continue watching classic films together on this channel. Comment below and let us know which classic movie we should discuss in the next video. See you in the next one. Cheers!